Bienvenido al llamo bandito. I'm TychoCelchuuu and welcome to a Company of Heroes 2 Noobcast. Yes, this one is sent in by viewers like you, Maxtasy .troll. I don't know what that troll means, but Maxtasy is playing as the Soviets and is apparently a noob, so we are going to Noobcast Maxtasy. His opponent is Strychnine. Oh man, that's cool. It's like Strychnine, the poisonous thing, but there's a T in there to show that you just love drinking tea because you're fancy. So that's pretty hardcore. And first off, big mistake, Maxtasy not building anything until just now. Oh, whoops, we're watching Strychnine. Okay, Maxtasy's fine. My mistake. So, unfortunately, we have to watch from Maxtasy's perspective to do a noobcast, and that means Strychnine is red instead of pink. I missed the pink. Whatever. So Maxtasy heading for the middle first with his engineers. So I don't like sending these conscripts your first unit of anything down across this river. It's going to take them like 20 minutes to get across. Possibly you'll catch your opponent and chase them off, but if you don't catch them before you get to the fuel, it's pretty much a wasted time. What you do want is to secure your own fuel on this map, Pripyat, and on any map you play, because, oh no, don't run away till you, okay, good. Secure your own fuel ASAP, you need your fuel to tech up, and also capturing this munitions point is not going to count until it's linked up, so you're going to have to link it up with something. Eventually, when you link it up with something, it's going to be this point or this point far behind your lines, so you don't want a conscript doing that, you want your engineers doing that, because they're less important in the fighting. So I tend to send my first engineers up here, and then up here, and then conscripts can cap this, and then they'll end up near the middle and they'll fight. So Maxtasy's stopping off to capture this point. Really no reason to do that. The only reason to send these conscripts right across the river really early in the game is to push your opponent off this fuel. So that's exactly what Maxtasy ought to be doing. Waiting to capture this point is not going to work. Luckily his opponent is terrible, and he's building a what's it? A munitions cache. He's half building. Jesus Christ! He's half building a munitions cache up there. Munitions cache up there, dumping a lot into grenadiers, and then just heading to the north. So, yeah, your opponent's terrible, Maxtasy. Don't build a munitions cache or a fuel cache so early in the game. And if you do, don't build it here. Build it right here, or even on a cutoff point, but there's no cutoff point. So build it closer to your base where it's easier to defend. But don't build it so early in the match, because that's a waste of 200 manpower. That's a lot of manpower that you need to dump into units really early, because if you dump manpower into units early, you'll be able to fight. If you dump manpower into caches early on, you're just going to have a slightly better income for a while, and that's nothing good. And if your opponent catches you, that's bad. My frame rate is slightly low. Let me just toggle fraps for a moment. Alright, welcome back. I hope you didn't miss anything. Oh, my frame rate went down again. Why is it so low? What is happening? I'll toggle it again. Okay, we good? We good? Good. Good. We're in a beta, so don't blame anything. Idle unit up here, and I think we had an idle unit down here for a while, so Maxtasy, keep your people moving as much as possible. Now that you've pushed your opponent off this fuel, definitely cap it. It's even linked up because you wasted time capping this strat point, so definitely capture that fuel ASAP. Maxtasy going tier 1 early, support weapon, so, yeah, tier 1 early, skipping tier 0. This is what I usually do, but that's when I'm spamming conscripts. Maxtasy only with the 3 conscript squads would usually want to go up to a 4th conscript squad before you go into here. The only stuff that there's a not a bad Molotov. The only stuff that comes out of here, you get AT guns, you get mortars, machine guns, AT guns, mortars, machine guns. I think. Yes, good. I know what I'm talking about. So. I've heard some people say, Tycho, the Russian Maxim machine gun is actually not as bad as you make it out to be. Whoop, quick LMG 42. So this would be an ideal place for a Molotov, but instead he retreats. So would maybe have thought about checking a Molotov there. You're in green cover, they're in yellow cover. Molotov's going to force them either to move back and get out of cover, or move forward into red cover. Either way, you'll probably do a pretty good job fighting them. So that would have been a better Molotov than up here, where they were mostly in red cover anyways. And I guess you were in red cover, but this close to your base, chances are you don't need to bother fighting too hard, because if you're losing the fight, you'll probably have some unit back at base or something to send it up forward and fight. So, in the realm of the terrible Auster player, still has only a half-built munitions point. Not doing much interesting, hanging out here with his grenadiers, maybe waiting for a second grenadier squad. Capturing the field, though. So this is why a Molotov would have been helpful. The reason it was good to use a Molotov here is not just because it would have helped win this fight, but because you want to keep this fuel tied up for as long as possible, keep it out of your opponent's hands. And just now, Max is capping his fuel, so this is bad news. You need to rush the fuel on Pripyat, you need to rush the fuel on Kolobny, you need to rush the fuel on whatever hypothetical maps Relic's going to give us for 1v1 in the future, and presumably they will be smart enough to include fuel points on those too, even though you'd think maybe they'll forget, because even for a while in Company Heroes 2 they didn't have any fuel points or munitions points. It was all just strategic points that you would OP. But so that would have been a thing. Luckily your opponent's terrible, so he's standing around this fire, but typically if you throw a Molotov then immediately retreat, it's just going to give your opponent an easy out. They'll be like, oh, I'll just walk out of the Molotov. And it doesn't matter because you're not around there to keep shooting them, and he loses an entire squad. So Maxis says this is a Noobcast, and Noobcast is right. Both players could use some work. Don't get a mortar this early as the Germans. Get a machine gun before you get a mortar. A machine gun is better than a mortar. You don't need a mortar. The Russians are just going to spam you with conscripts or something. Don't get a machine gun as the Soviets. I think it's probably not a stupendous idea. If you do get a machine gun, don't do this with it. Don't drive it straight at your opponent. Don't give it directly to the opponent. Luckily you made them mortar it themselves, so that's good, but this was a heinous misuse of the Maxim machine gun. Machine gun should be set up at long range. The Maxim machine gun has a very fast setup time, so the idea is you reposition it and get the drop on opponents when they're not ready for you. So with the long setup time, you can afford to... Look, he's pushing the little guy along. Okay. With the long setup time, or the short setup time, you can afford to be conservative with your placement. So with an MG42 or something, if you put it all the way back here, and then there's a fight going up here, you're like, well, okay, I'll pack it up, move it up, set it down. It takes like forever. Chances are your opponent will see you setting up. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. But with the Maxim, you set it up back here, and you're like, oh, there's a fight going here? Okay, I'll roll it forward 3 inches, set it up again, and it'll take a second or two. So that's a benefit of the Maxim. I think I'll probably come around on the Maxim eventually. Maybe I'll think it's a better gun than I've been calling it in the past. I still don't build it, but whatever. So here's the thing. If your opponent's bombarding you with mortars, what you want is to get as far away from where you think they're bombarding as possible. So maybe up into the upper left-hand corner of this thing, or in the bottom left-hand corner of this thing. They're probably bombarding somewhere around here. It's all just mind games, right? You have to just assume you know where they're shooting. Maybe they're not shooting. Looks like this guy's bad enough that he wasn't actually using the fire into the fog of war command. He was just letting his mortar auto-attack, which is not going to work once you lose sight, which he very quickly did once this VP was kept. So, but guess where your opponent's mortar is going and try and move away. When a mortar is coming down at you, you want to close in with the enemy troops, of course, force the mortar to kill the opponents. Luckily, again, his opponent's terrible, losing 1,000 people in this Molotov. So that's good. Losing the Maxim, though, is going to set, what's-his-face, back a big amount. So idle engineers, move them out. You're floating 854 manpower. Don't float. Floating is bad. Floating is one of the worst things you can do in a real-time strategy game. Floating is just having a ton of resources hanging out. I'm not sure why it's called floating. I guess they're just floating on the top of your massive resource pile. Finally building something. What's he building? Tier 3, so up to T-34s. Okay, but the reason floating is so bad is because this manpower literally does nothing for you. You don't earn interest on it. There's nothing else I could even imagine you could do with it hypothetically aside from earn interest on it, and you don't earn interest, so you need to spend this stuff. It's burning a hole in your pocket. Get it out there on the field ASAP. Once it's out there on the field, it's going to help you. You turn it into conscripts, they'll fight for you. Turn it into Maxim submachine guns, you can give it as a gift to your enemy. Maybe they'll decide that you're a very nice person and they'll let you win the game or something. In the spirit of camaraderie and friendship, you never know. This Maxim is coming back to bite him in the ass. Normally the low field of fire is kind of annoying on the Maxim, but luckily this map is choke point central. Thank you, Relic, for not knowing how to make a map. So that Maxim is able to lock down the middle there. So now we're up to, oh, just kidding, we're not up to the takeover. These things take a long time to build, I feel like, the base buildings, whatever. They probably did in Company Heroes also. So good job decapping this fuel and then capping it back. Going this doctrine so early, I don't know why. He's not doing anything with it. He doesn't need the heavy mortar squad. He doesn't need the guards rifle yet. He doesn't need mark target or whatever. Potentially he's thinking about using guards rifle as his AT, but for AT you can just upgrade AT grenades, which he already has, and then use your AT guns. And also now you've got your thingy, your T-34 building. So if his opponent had gone vehicles, he would have had at least a heads up. So you don't need to choose your guards rifle doctrine until they get vehicles. There's another guards rifle doctrine, remember. It's the one that lets you hit the dirt, and that honestly I think is my preferred guards rifle doctrine. hit the dirt, and PPSH is on your conscript's own. Running up in red cover to an LMG stationary squad is horrific. There's typically any decent player, that Molotov coming in, they'll see it and avoid it. This is just wide open space. It's not like they're even in cover, so this guy even managed to get out. So yeah, it took way too many conscript losses on that one. Don't just run up to someone to throw a Molotov when you're pretty much guaranteed they're going to retreat from it or dodge it. You want effective Molotovs, one that they don't notice, or since you can't always bank on your opponent not noticing, one that forces them out. So we have from Tier 3 an M5 half-track. No, please don't. The reason you don't want to, sorry, Tier 2, the reason you don't want to tech up to Tier 2 and start spamming these half-tracks is because if you don't have the penal battalions wandering around, which he doesn't because he hasn't built Tier 0, there's no reason you need, so even if you do have the penal, you don't need these half-tracks. You've got the scout cars that you can get out of Tier 0, and those are just basically as good. This half-track has more health, and it does more damage with this machine gun, I think, and it can hold, he just mortared some guy. And it can hold 2 squads, but the thing is, it just comes out late enough that by the time you can tech to this, you can also tech the fucking T-34s. So instead of dumping, how much fuel? 60 fuel into 2 of these half-tracks, you would save that 60 fuel, bank it for a T-34, which is only 90 fuel, and now he's getting hit with an AT gun. So definitely circle strafe the AT gun, that's good, keep that up. Uh-oh, traffic jam. But so dumping all this fuel into 2 half-tracks this late in the game is not good, and if your opponent were decent, they'd have stuff out there that would be owning your face. As it stands, all he's got is a decred pack, so that's good. He can Faust you though, see how much damage this will do. Between that and the LMG, look at this thing, they're just too weak, right? It's too late in the game to be start busting out with these. The M5 half-track, the only reason I could really think of it is if you're going heavy on the penal battalions, those guys get 2 flamethrowers, and I'm pretty sure, I guess if you stick 2 squads of them, you'll get 4 flamethrowers, so that's a fucking flamethrower truck if I've ever heard of one. But yeah, that's obviously not what's going on. He doesn't even have the building necessary for the penal battalion. He's just got these things driving around. They're getting themselves shot up by Panzerfaust, getting some good damage in on these grenadiers. They're going to go down, down, down because they have such a low health bar and they're going to get critted. But just dumping all this fuel and whoa, look at that. What did I tell you? See, they're getting critted. Dumping all this, even then, the LMG is just doing massive damage. Pulls out another Faust. Bad, stupid idea. So terrible player, so okay, bad people all around. So what is he doing here? I guess he's just chilling out. He's asking for a Molotov. Ooh, that's really painful. Is he gonna get out? Is he gonna even notice? Eew. That was close. So, dumping 2 fuel into these M20s, plus getting pushed off the middle with the Maxim, and spending a lot of time reinforcing conscripts that went on futile death charges means that Maxtasy has lost control of the vast majority of the map, and he's going to pay for that. Getting his fuel back, that's a good thing, but it's going to be tough. Oh god, 1300, man, just don't float, okay? I'm not even sure I should do Noobcasts where, like, here's every Noobcast from now on. Don't float, okay? That's the problem that you have. Also fix these to 100%, the criticals, so the damaged engine, damaged gun, stuff like that. Those aren't going to be fixed till the vehicle is repaired to 100%. I suppose he's trying to block this retreat, and it's actually working fairly well, but he's like, what? Now I'm going. But now he's going to get Fausted to death, potentially. Oh, just 1 Faust. There's these guys with the flamethrowers here. You can hop into this vehicle, and you'll be much, much safer from these flamethrowers and this light infantry fire. So that is something you should definitely consider. And in fact, in the Fast Tier 2, or Fast Tier 1 strategy that Purple Shepherd has for the Ostera that I sort of follow, one of the reasons you get a half-track is so you can stick your Panzergrens in there when the flame come out. So now we have Stub. His half-tracks aren't going to do jack squat against Stub. Perhaps if you load it up with Guard's Rifle, he could drive around and shoot the Stub. You could circle strafe forever and hit it with AT guns, or AT rifles from the behind, so that would actually work. The other thing is you could steal Panzer Shreks and get behind it, but that's obviously hard. Somehow decred the Maxim, probably with a Molotov. This looks sort of scorched, and his opponent has a very bad history of dodging Molotovs. Building a T-70. So once again, way behind on the teching. T-70 has been buffed, so I'm not ready yet to call it bad, as I used to be before, but you need to rush the T-70 ASAP. Get it out as soon as possible. It's going to be your counter against all their light vehicles, and it's also going to pick off infantry for you, and it's going to do as much damage as possible before the opponent's tanks hit the field. Once the opponent's tanks do hit the field, T-70 is a piece of shit. It's not going to do anything. Potentially could circle strafe this thing for 20 minutes and kill it. Since damage is so high against vehicles, if you get some good penetrations from the T-70, it's got a fast fire rate, whatever, you have 20 minutes to circle strafe, but you don't. Much safer buying a T-34 and then another T-34. Tycho always recommends the T-34s, but really, if you're going to tech up to this tier and your opponent starts spamming the tanks, or by spamming, they're building at least one, once that starts happening, no, T-70 is outclassed. So we have 55 fuel dumped into T-70 and 40 fuel dumped into 2 half-tracks. So between the 50 and the 40, 55 and the 40, that's 95, and that is enough, my friends, to build a T-34 76 medium tank, plus he's floating 30 fuel, so he could have had a 32 fuel to go, and that would be doing him a lot better. He'd be squishing infantry, he'd be possibly circling around this and destroying it, possibly he'd have another T-34 and he'd ram it, and it could be happy some fun times. Buying another conscript squad. He's got a lot of stuff. And a machine gun. Building a machine gun. He's got a machine gun, the one he stole. Oh, not for long. Oh. Yeah, no. Again, no Molotov here. They're going to either obviously run or obviously chase this thing. It's not like they're going to stand here. So you want to throw Molotovs where your opponent has no desire to run from. If it's basically no choice for them to run, they're not much of a hard choice, I mean. If it's basically like, yeah, okay, there's a Molotov here, I'm going to reposition, no big deal. Don't do that. The only way that Molotov is ever going to work is if your opponent is not paying any attention, so, and you can't always bank on that. Although against this guy, I suppose you can. So this Pack 40 is up and is going to one-shot the T-70? Oh, no, it's going to two-shot the T-70, okay. Do it. Do it. Reload, and oh, you missed. Okay, well, anyways, that's the lesson. Don't buy T-70s. Even if you do, like, you pay attention for AT guns and especially enemy tanks. Where's the enemy tank? This thing, not really sure why it's not more far forward. It's going to be more resilient than the Pack 40 and do about the same damage. But yeah, so careful with your AT guns like this. Don't move them up forward without support. Now he's finally moving up a Maxim, but his opponent does have a mortar, so this is at about the stage in the game where a mortar can be useful, and so try not to set up in the middle when your opponent has a mortar like this unless you can move in on the mortar, or at least use the barrage ability on your AT gun, this light artillery barrage thing, to take out the mortar. Don't even need Vet 1 for that thing. Good job down here harassing in the south. Here's the T-70 taking out some Pioneers. 1 kill, 2 kills, 3 kills, 4 kills. They buffed the accuracy of that gun against infantry, so now it's not horrific. But like I said, you want it to be a blitzkrieg killing machine when it comes onto the map, and to get that you want to rush it. Don't stop off in half-tracks. A lot of conscripts bought. If you're going to spam this many conscripts, please go the doctrine burn. Please go the doctrine that lets you hit the dirt and buy PPSHs. This doctrine doesn't do anything for the conscripts, and so there's no, well, I mean, it's not like it's wrong to spam conscripts, but if you're going to spam conscripts, why not make them, like, tremendous instead of going this doctrine, which hasn't gotten him anything the entire game, hasn't even bought Guard's Rifle. So now we have a Panzer IV out, and this would be pretty much GG if the opponent pushed it in and tried to exploit this thing, because we have just another T-70 being built by Max to see. So T-70s are not anti-tank tanks. T-70s are anti-everything but tank tanks. They're light tanks. Not light like bug light. Light like do you have a light? But this needs repairs, and so this T-70 should not be slogging through the river. It looks pretty cool, though. I like how the T-70 looks. Probably my top 10 favorite coolest looking tanks. Light tanks. Light and refreshing. T-70 is the pause that refreshes, is what I think it is. Boom! This thing's fucked. And he gets the engineers out. Ironically, I think they're less safe when they do that. Just retreat. Retreat. GTFO. GTFO. Yes, thank you. So I don't know what the plan is with this T-70. You need Vet 1 to send it on little marauding missions. So here's the thing about getting an early T-70. Once it becomes obsolete, right? Once obsolescence approaches it, because your opponent has tanks on the field, then what you want to do is transition to asshole mode. And so the asshole mode button is V on your T-70. This lets it capture territory. Just fucking drive it to the edges of the map, capture some shit, send it where your opponent's trying to capture some shit. This is a futile AT grenade. Don't do this oh, just kidding. I was gonna say don't do this until you have a plan to follow it up. It turns out he's got a fucking plan. He's got a T-70 and, well, no, he's got a ZIS and I thought a T-70 to hit it from behind, but no, he just drove directly in front of the assault gun. The only place this can shoot you is directly in front of it, so this is really oh, that's a lot of AT guns. This is really unfortunate that's getting away. Hey, look, he recruited. Did you just lose a squad to recruit that? Yeah, you did. Don't do that. Don't lose a squad to recruit an AT gun, especially because I don't think it's going to fire. Doesn't even see it. That's true sight for you. Meanwhile, so this is an asshole mode, kind of. Asshole mode for the T-70, what I mean by that is go around capping stuff behind enemy lines and also kill enemy infantry that try and cap your thing. Bless me, I have allergies thanks to this summer, and this cannot hit the Stug. Luckily, his opponent bad enough to only now be backing out the Stug. Probably going to get a shot in. T-70 get it? Yeah, I think the T-70 got it. So now he's going to lose 2 AT guns, though. That's not good. Hey, look, it's a mortar. Oh, you killed it. So yeah, asshole mode for the T-70. Once it becomes obsolete and enemy tanks are on the map, drive it around, capture the fuel, get the cutoffs, and when your opponent sends infantry to try and stop you, just turn the gun back on. Hey, his AT guns got out. His opponent wasn't chasing vigorously enough. Again, with the Maxims, easily the worst way to use them is just to run them into the middle and let them get killed. This time it's actually not getting killed, but you be very careful with crew-served guns and weapons like this. You need to be constantly paying attention to where they're going. Don't just give them a move order halfway across the map and hope for the best, because you will die like the rest. This guy got some Panzer Grenadiers with Panzer Shreks for God knows what reason. I guess he really hates T-70s. He's going to open them up. Massive, massive blobs of infantry. At this point, you have 143 fuel, so you could start transitioning into the T-34s. You've teched up to them, and there goes a conflict squad. So, building quite a lot of infantry when he didn't go the doctrine with the conscripts is maybe not as stupendous as it could be. Bizarrely, this Tinkovi battalion command has its rally point set to his engineers, so whenever he builds something from here, it's going to go directly to his engineers, and if you end up having spammed this much infantry for whatever reason, you're rethinking your life and you're like, what happened? Send them all across the map. Don't blob them all into the middle. Send 2 up here, 2 down here, 2 over here, and then that leaves us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then that leaves us 2 machine guns. I don't know, send 1 to the north and 1 to the middle. Fuck, whatever. Yeah, spread out as much as possible. Push your opponent on all the fronts. This is sort of what he's doing, but whatever. Also, you can put demolition charges on this bridge, so it's just FYI. Just FYI. We gonna see a grenade? Or are they just gonna sit here forever and get themselves killed for no reason? Clearly option number 2. Okay. So, a big blob. You managed to get back here by healing on your base. Field Infirmary, 250 manpower. We've had floating manpower for quite a while in this game, so definitely you could spare that. Would have healed these AT guns up and they could go back to the front. Look at all these overarching fields of fire. This is like Tron with these little yellow lines everywhere. I haven't seen the new Tron movie. Is it any good? I'm gonna watch it afterwards. You don't need to tell me if it's good or not. It's got music by Daft Punk. So, that's great. If you like them. These guys got pushed off. So, sending a low health squad down here and meeting G43 Grenadiers. Bad times, so that's why you send more people. If you have enough infantry to blob like this, then you send multiple ones down there. So, how's this guy doing? He's built like every fucking building. Doesn't really seem to have a strategy. He's just losing his tanks piecemeal. So, try and make better use of your Stugs and your Panzer IVs when they come out. At least finally this guy's driving his Panzer IV around, but you should probably try and keep it repaired with these Pioneers. Once you get these Panzer IVs out, especially since your opponent... building this thing. Especially since your opponent dumped all that fuel into the T-70s and the half-tracks, that is when you want to make your tanks shine, because their half-tracks and their T-70s are not going to do anything. So take your Panzer IV, take your Stug, roll on over, blow some people up. Of course they're going to have AT guns. Well, I mean, not of course, but if they have AT guns, deal with it. You've got a mortar, you've got your other infantry, so move in, decrew those AT guns ASAP. Here comes Molotov. And move a bit on their own volition, and now they're actually moving too. So that's a good Molotov. You force them to move and run towards you. Unfortunately, you don't have PPSHs. At least it does bring them into the Maxims field of fire, and that's good. So still, though, he's got a lot of units in his base. 2 conscript squad here and a conscript squad here that could all be heading south. This AT gun is a little too conservatively positioned. Probably in the middle is what you want. And I don't know what the Maxim's plan is, but at least it's spreading out. So, taking to tier 4, interesting choice. What do you want out of tier 4 is the question. The Su-85 would be fairly good against these opponent tanks, but you know what would also be good? 2 T-34s, and for the cost of building this tier 4. So you look at this, it costs 90 fuel to build the tier 4. And then out of the tier 4, the cost of the Su-85 is another 115. So that's 205 fuel. For that, you could get more than 2 T-34s. So, and I think more than 2 T-34s are probably going to be more effective than an Su-85. Although, it's debatable against enemy tanks. But I would probably go with the 2 T-34s. This map is kind of choke pointy, so for a map to be good for a tank destroyer, this is it, because you could sort of park your Su-85 here. But he's got a lot of AT guns already. He's got 3. 1, 2, 3. So in terms of locking down the middle, he's got his set. All he needs now is ways to immobilize and trap opponents and get circle behind them, and 2 T-34s are far more effective for that. Setting up a Maxim directly, well, I guess it can shoot through this. Go figure. That's how the video game does it. Do we even have true sight beyond this? It's tough to tell because these guys are here. That's just weird. There's a tip, you can shoot through some of this underbrush, but not all of the underbrush. Sometimes you can't shoot through the stuff. It's a mystery to everybody. Boosh! Flames. How's it going here? Pushing forward, leapfrogging tactics good. Well, I was gonna say leapfrogging tactics good with the AT gun. You use one to cover the other while it's moving up. That's not what he's doing, but he could because he's got one here, right? Very afraid of people coming in here. Su-85 with the red paint signifying blood. Funny colored blood. Look at that. Su-85 also not a bad looking tank. It's just a box, but I'm a pretty big fan of boxes. I keep some of my stuff in boxes, so you could say I have a soft spot for them. It's a soft spot under my bed. That's actually not the softest part, but that's where I keep my stuff. So, okay. Map is dragging on. You got way too much infantry and way not enough capping. Oh look, these guys are coming across. Do you see them? Yes, you do. So now it's time to respond with all the infantry in your base. Moving out, and they got her grenade. I don't know, they're moving in real close. But, oh look, it's a Maxim, so that'll help. Also pull your AT gun back when you see these guys. I like the sound. G43s make a nice little snap, crackle, pop. Don't know what this guy's doing down here. Su-85 running on its own, never a good idea. These things are very easily circle strafed and destroyed because they can only shoot forward and they're kind of slow. So when the engine gets damaged, they're easily circle strafed and destroyed. So don't send them off on their own. These guys are dead. That's not good. This would be a stupendous time for the barrage ability, but it's dead. This Maxim is on its own, probably not going to be able to hold up because here's what makes people say the Maxim's terrible. These guys get to walk up here and just throw a grenade and well, there goes the Maxim. So don't send Su-85 down on its lonesome. You want it to be holding the middle. Oh look, they dropped an MG42. That's for you. It is yours now. Pick it up. Pick it up and read. Nope, you're not even... Okay, do that though. So that's cool. This thing should not be moving to the middle because it's gonna get killed and there's nothing in the middle for it to shoot except, I suppose, its former comrade. Boom! Fratricide. And by fratricide, I mean shooting near the boxes. Oop, okay, that's a Shrek could have been yours. So this mortar in the middle is fucking them up. How many kills? I guess 3. It's probably been decrewed. But when there's a mortar in the middle like this, you turn your field guns into counter mortars, counter artillery, or you hit it with a vehicle or something like a T-70, but those are dead, or an M20, but those are dead, or an SU or a T-34, but he hasn't built those. Maybe even an SU-85, whatever. So for those keeping track at home, this doctrine has done literally nothing for him the entire game. Has not used marked vehicle, hasn't bought any guards rifle, hasn't bought a massive mortar, hasn't bought a T-34-85, which, by the way, don't really bother teching up to tier 4 when you go this doctrine, right? Because you can grab T-34-85s. Those can be your super fucking heavy tanks. They're expensive, but this comes with 2 of them, so that's good. They're not quite as resilient as the Su-85. I think maybe their gun's about as good. I don't know. I'll have to check Company Heroes 2 stats later at some point. But when you go this doctrine, one of the benefits of having a heavy tank at the end is that you don't have to tech up to this big thing. Because the only other stuff you get is Katyushas and Su-76s, neither of which you really need by the time. The reason you want an Su-76 is if you fast tech to this tier, it'll be your really good anti-light vehicle thing, and it'll provide supplemental AT against tanks, but mostly it'll be light vehicles. Obviously, he did not fast tech to this. He stopped off at tier 3 first, so his anti-light vehicle could be the T-70 and the T-34. So the only thing he's really going to need out of here is the Su-85, and the Su-85 costs 320 and 115 versus 2 of these, 720 and 260. So it's Sort of slightly more expensive for T-3485s, but still worth it because you don't have to pay to tech up. You don't have to waste time teching up. This is what happens when you send the Su-85 out on its own alone. It just gets destroyed. Tank destroyers are for destroying tanks. They're not so useful against infantry. They're not going to be able to squish very well because they're not fast enough. They can't do any circle strafing, stuff like that. So don't send them out on their own. Use them in the choke points of the map to fight off your opponent. Use them basically like really good AT guns that can chase people easily and retreat easily. Su-76, no reason again to send it out into its own. This is again a tank destroyer sort of thing. Please don't send them out on their own. The only things that should go out on their own are light vehicles like T-70s or tanks, or better yet, support everybody with infantry if you can, unless the T-70 is in assault mode. T-70 in assault mode is a perfect thing to send out on its own, but Su-76 is not a perfect thing to send out on its own. What the fuck do you want to do with that? Nothing. There's nothing you can really do except it's painted red. So here comes the Panzer. The Panther Panzer. Panzer 5. Panzer 4. I guess 4 is 4, right? Oh, don't use the bombard. Well, too late. I don't know. But, well, at this point you're fucked, whatever you do, because nothing's going to happen. But light artillery barrage is going to do worse against the Panther than normally just firing. AT gun moving into the middle to get self-shot, not the greatest idea. Maxim down here, that's cool. What's this thing? Looks like a mortar. That's been there for a while. A lot of infantry back here. So, lessons we can learn from this game. I'll just reiterate a lot of stuff I've been saying. Number one, pick a doctrine that makes sense. This doctrine did nothing. He's had shit ton of conscripts the entire game, so pick the one that lets you hit the dirt and get PPSHs, or pick another doctrine. I don't care. Just don't pick a doctrine until you have a reason to pick a doctrine. Certainly, he could not have had a reason to pick this doctrine because he never used anything from it. Second, if you spam a lot of infantry, send them out everywhere you can, constantly, always, always, always prodding all sides of the map. Third, in terms of teching, if you fast tech to this tier, grab a T-70 or a T-34, not an M20, or an, sorry, what? Not an M20, not an M5. If you want a thing to drive around in with flamethrowers, go tier 1, buy the scout car. No reason to go up to this half track unless you're going to do maybe penal battalion or something, I don't know. There's really not a lot of reasons to do it. So out of this, you fast tech to a T-70, use the T-70 in assault mode once it's become obsolete, but before it becomes obsolete, use it to mop up enemy infantry, just like ruin them, okay? Ruin them. Or better yet, just go for straight up to the T-34 and use that to ruin them. T-34 are going to crush people every day. So if you tech there, do that. If you end up teching to Tier 4, the Mechanized Armor Company, then the Su-76 will be your anti-light vehicle thing to supplement your conscripts. So don't build it if you tech to it very late, like this guy did. And the Su-85, it's not going to be able to maraud around on its own, like maybe the T-34 or the T-70 could. Instead, use it to fight enemy tanks in conjunction with your AT guns and your conscripts. So don't send it down on its own, like down here and then up here or whatever. It's not going to fight enemy infantry very well. It's got tank destroyer in its name, so that should be a hint. So teching choices are what hurt him here. Doctrine choices hurt him here. Some micro mistakes with Maxim. Maybe don't buy Maxims. And does he have a mortar? Play back over. So I guess he just gives up. Didn't actually have to give up. He has 100 fuel, so that's enough for like an Su-85. His opponent's bad enough with tanks that probably could take out this Panzer IV with the Su-85. The Panther's going to be an issue, but whatever. You have 2 AT guns, and 2 AT guns even are enough to take on a Panther. But I hope this was a helpful Noobcast for Max to see who sent it in, and everybody else watching. If you have your own Noobcast to send in to me so I can yell at you and tell you everything I'm doing wrong, even though in all likelihood there's no chance I could ever do it better, go ahead and send me a link to the replay. And that, I think, concludes what I want to say about this video game replay.